Welcome back. 2026 is already starting out with a heavy emphasis on law enforcement training. Monica Alexander, the Executive Director of the state's Criminal Justice Training Commission, joins me now with a look at some of her agency's priorities in 2026. Monica, thank you for coming back this morning. And obviously, given the timing of everything, I wanted to start with what has been transpiring in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with the deadly shooting involving an ICE agent last week. Don't want to ask you specifics about what actually transpired there, but I think that this has created a conversation about police training when you're in some of those high-profile, high-anxiety type situations. And the question is, how do police officers here in Washington, which might be different from what they do in Minneapolis or on the federal level, how do they train for those type of situations when they're confronting protesters or demonstrators that are part of some of those movements?
I think one of the things we always talk to our recruits about, and thanks for having me and having this conversation, is our recruits and our officers is, what is your legal authority? Do people have a right to protest at that space? And if they do, what do you do to keep things calm while that's going on? And the first thing about keeping things calm is keeping yourself calm. Right? Because if you lose it, everything loses it. And so I think it's difficult. I know how difficult it is when people are protesting and there's uprisings and the crowds get really large and they usually outnumber the police. And so that can make police very anxious. However, knowing your legal authority and trying to keep things under control is the main thing. And also creating some distance so you have an opportunity to react when things don't go so well. And having a good number of officers there to support what's going on. So there's mutual aid. Sometimes when you know it's going to be a large crowd, agencies will ask for additional officers from other areas to come in and assist.
Do you think what we saw transpire is going to lead to conversations across the country and maybe even here about how law enforcement is trained when it comes to those types of situations?
I think there's always conversations, and I think there's always opportunities to learn and see. No one wants to lose life, right? We don't want officers to die. We don't want community members to die. We want to allow people their right to protest, but we want it to happen safely. So I think that we would be missed if we don't have conversations when we see things like that happen. And how can we do it better? How can we learn from everything that happens around the country?
Given everything that's going on in the country right now, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that are facing law enforcement, and how does the commission help with that?
I think situations all getting lumped together can be really problematic. So when we in Washington state are judged by what happens in another state, our laws are different, our law enforcement are different, we're trained different, there's different cultures depending on the state, and I'm not saying good or bad, they're just different. And I think when we get lumped into what happened there. Now, it doesn't mean that our community won't speak out against it. We know what happened. We saw what happened, and people are going to protest. But just recognize that how our law enforcement officers are trained and what they do, and try not to hold our law enforcement accountable for what someone else did. And if I can ask the community anything, it's that. Give our law enforcement here a chance to do their job, and let's err on the side of being kind to each other while we're out there. And just trying to make things right and better.
Certainly, it seems like that could go a long way.
I think it can go a long way, and I know I get to meet every single officer on their first day, and sometimes I miss the first day, but for the most part, when they first start the academy. And the reasons that they join law enforcement are so wholesome, and they're very humble, and if people could see what I get to see almost every week with our law enforcement officers when they first start the academy, I think they'd have a different view of how they judge them, because they're out there and they have families like everyone else, and one person does something that is egregious or we don't appreciate, and we hold everybody accountable for it, and it's just not fair.
You brought up a good point just now, which I think is important to emphasize, in that the reasons that a lot of folks join law enforcement, I would assume, are varied. There's a mantra I think that's across the country, or a perception across the country that in light of incidents, and you could use Minneapolis as an example, that all law enforcement are bad. We know that's not the case, but the intentions of people going to law enforcement, I think overall, and probably from your experience with having those conversations with those folks, are really good. They want to help the community.
Yes, 100%. And I know why I joined law enforcement a long time ago. And spent 23 years doing it. And I loved every moment of it. And I was talking about it on the way here, and how the opportunity to help and be there when people are in crisis, it makes you feel good inside. There's something warm and fuzzy about it. Now, that's not every single day. Sometimes you are dealing with people, large groups, protests, things like that. You have to be able to pivot and put on a different hat when everything goes crazy, because there are people that are there to protest and just want to be heard, and we have to remember that. Sometimes people just want to and need to be heard about a situation, and this is one of the times where that is happening. We're seeing it in our city. But you're right, people join for such good reasons. There was a story recently with a recruit that joined because his son was killed by a DUI, and it was one of the most beautiful stories I've heard, that he felt the calling to be a part of law enforcement because of the way he was treated when his son, and in his worst time of him and his family's life. I love the story and I appreciate it, but I have probably hundreds of stories of really good people being a part of law enforcement.
And I think the officer you're talking about was for the Kent Police Department, if my memory serves me correctly. Let's turn to kind of a big emphasis for 2026, and that's stalking cases, which are obviously very, very serious. What roles does the commission play in preparing officers to recognize and respond to those types of cases, and why are they such kind of a focus for 2026, would you say?
They're a focus because historically they've been underreported. Stalking is really weird. It's something that happens and people kind of go, well, maybe I shouldn't report that. Maybe, yeah, I know that guy keeps coming by my house, but I don't want to make a big deal out of it. Well, then it can turn, it can grow. Teaching our law enforcement how to recognize patterns and different situations that they might want to stop before they grow is what we're doing. So we have a couple of trainings. It's kind of a beginning training and then an advanced training that we're developing so that officers can respond differently to stalking and make sure that we're responding properly to stalking calls. And that will help people to want to report stalking. If they think nothing's going to happen, they don't want to report because they don't want to seem like, oh, I'm just being silly. No, you're not. If you see someone and you know someone is stalking you, or somebody's sending you an electronic messages, right? That's become a thing, where people are stalking people over the internet. You need to report it. We want people to be safe. And so we're trying to train our officers to respond properly so that we can help.
How is technology maybe changing the training for that, or even the response to those types of cases? Is it?
Well, it is and it isn't. It is because we're looking at how people are using technology. We want to grow in the tech world. We don't have a whole lot of money. We're looking for, doing some new, as we've talked about, the VR stuff, and any type of training we can incorporate into the VR system that we're trying to get and we'd like to get for all of our academies will be very helpful, because repetition, and coming up with different scenarios that are real scenarios and teaching law enforcement officers how to respond to them are going to be huge.
All right, Monica, thank you so much. I know we covered a lot of ground this morning. I always appreciate you coming in and sharing the insight of what the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission is doing every single day. Appreciate it.
Thank you.